Okay, good afternoon and welcome to the Emergency Solutions Grants Program ESG-CV CARES Act Round 1 NOFA webinar. I would like to introduce our ESG program team. Megan Miller is the ESG program manager, and the ESG program representatives are Diana Prado, Amanda Lockwood, Deona Jennings, Jamie Dix, and myself, Jeanette Shockey. If you'd like to ask a question, please click in the chat box, and the team will read the questions out loud throughout the presentation. If we are unable to answer the question, we will answer them on the FAQs. All questions will be saved and recorded. Now I'd like to go over some highlights of the ESG-CV CARES Act. There's $1 billion was awarded nationally, and the California allocation is $43 million. And round 2 is $3 billion, and it will be, we don't know what the allocation will be for California at this time. The awards will be made as we receive your completed application, so it's going to be a rolling awards. There is a single allocation with no competition. The COC or the designated AE will receive funds, and they get to choose the providers. And approximately 5% can be used for administrative activities. Additionally, there's no match requirements. There's no spending cap on the emergency shelter and street outreach, and there's no minimum spending on rapid rehousing. Also, the income eligibility for homeless prevention is 50% above AMI. ESG program participants are not required to receive treatment or perform any other prerequisite activities as a condition for receiving shelter, housing, or services. Citizen participation consultation requirements can be waived. There are no minimum period of use for emergency shelter, and please note ESG-approved waivers do not apply to the ESG-CV funding. ESG-CV waivers will be announced by HUD. The CARES Act guiding principles and priorities are outlined by HUD as follows: equitable and effective use of resources to rehouse people, using equity-based decisions making and data-driven policy setting. Additionally, follow the CDC's recommendation are address public health risks by housing people in unsheltered locations and shelters with shared sleeping areas, and ensure that people in non-congregate shelters do not return to unsheltered homelessness or shelters with shared sleeping areas. Okay, at this time, do you have any questions? Please use the chat box. Okay, the webinar, okay, so someone has texted or emailed and said, has the webinar started? And I'm replying yes.
We did have it on mute for the first couple of minutes for everyone to be able to join in.
Someone's asking, are you live? I'm saying yes. If that person still can't hear, please send me a chat response. Okay, here's a question. Is there still a 10% cap for homeless prevention? No, there's no cap for homeless prevention. Will the webinar slides be available after the webinar? Yes, we will post it to our website. Is there a formal process for designating an administrative entity? So the administrative entities for the COC have already been designated by the solicitation of interest that was done a few months ago. So those are the designated AEs. For the balance of state, the money is going to the COC unless the COC doesn't have capacity or is not a nonprofit. They can designate an AE, and they would have to.
I believe the form will be in the.
Yeah, they'll fill out the form in the application designating who their AE is going to be.
Yes.
Do these ESG-CV funds have minimums for rapid rehousing? Is there a maximum for emergency shelter and or outreach?
I don't believe there's.
So there is no minimum for rapid rehousing, and there's no maximum for emergency shelter or outreach. So if you wanted to use all these funds for emergency shelter, you could. Because like I said in the beginning, there is no cap for street outreach or emergency shelter.
They just have a set allocation.
Looks like I got all the questions. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce Diona. She's going to present the next few slides.
Thank you, Jeanette. Going into strategic investments of ESG-CV resources. Spending down and investing the CARES Act funds strategically is very important so that your agencies can maximize their resources and be able to see the impact and to gauge effectiveness. The areas that are considered most crucial and high priority are the non-congregate shelter, street outreach, HMIS, homeless prevention, and rapid rehousing. Data maintenance is crucial and will be one of your most helpful tools to maximize at this time. HMIS has several features and tools that can be a great support to agencies, such as the document upload feature, which can be used to track client progress, doctor's notes and instructions, COVID status, or health reports. Also to ensure that clients are not seeking services in multiple locations or double dipping in services. Through to the end of September, any HMIS-led incurred costs can be paid through this fund with the exception of the lead agency. And if your agency decides to extend its capacity or to deepen sustainability, these changes or proposals should be supported with inflow data or backup documentation. Prioritizing safety is most important during this time. We encourage that coordination happens at the COC level to ensure protocols for safety are updated, shared, and relevant to service and providers. Prioritize coordination with public health to get flat about non-congregate shelter options. If you intend on expanding your shelter or anticipate different approaches to isolation and quarantine spaces, make sure you are staying looped in with public health to verify that your ideas are acceptable and meet the standard. Take a look at staffing. Wherever you see more hands and efforts are needed, address those needs accordingly. And of course, ensure direct services staff and on-site staff have adequate protective gear. Please place emphasis on investments that will improve the overall shelter experience. Increase positive exits and plans that will be impactful on prevention and intervention of spreading the infection. Expand essential services such as housing navigation, converting existing spaces in the shelter to extend access to non-congregate shelter, or prepare for renovations that spell improved shelter quality. Rapid rehousing is the #1 priority investment in ESG, and it also holds the greatest capacity of all of the ESG activities. So again, reiterating that strategy and intention will serve agencies well in figuring out where more staffing is necessary and how to extend support to those areas and programs that are working with overflow in both the congregate and non-congregate spaces, as well as those who are unsheltered. Also to maximize the staff that are already on board and encouraging out-of-the-box thinking about what are some tips and tools to be able to engage participants and community members. Look into program models that have been successful in meeting high intensity needs that have data to prove their successes and impacts. Some of these programs may model short-term diversion services and high intensity or heavy-handed case management models. Programs like critical time intervention, also known as CTI modeling, or Shelter Plus Care, has a comprehensive model that leans on implementing a heavy strength-based model, could be helpful to review for support and guide. Other investments that HCD are in favor of are efforts that look like support and engagement, efforts to ramp up housing, and engaging landlords for available units. This can look several different ways. For example, hosting a landlord brunch to strengthen the relationship and increase access of available units and opportunities for networking. Getting flat about what agencies can offer a landlord and finalizing their engagement tool, or also known as the elevator pitch. Maximizing or engaging in the platform of coordinated entry, making a consistent and timely effort to keep data updated and as clean as possible. Also, making sure that exits to housing are equitable across the board, and if returns to homelessness are happening, that there are no racial disparities in those numbers. Housing retention is equally as important as a housing placement. So following up with clients that are in housing and still eligible for services, or that have recently been placed in housing, are being connected and linked to services that are relevant to their needs, so that they can obtain and retain self-sufficiency and retain their housing. Completing needs assessments, updating case plans, or creating case plans will help be navigation tools to ensure that efforts and energy put forth by program staff and housing navigators are relevant and helpful to any clients. For street outreach and for those who are unsheltered, providing the individuals with toiletries, supplies, and protective equipment is an immediate priority. Engaging with shelter, coordinated entry access points, and providing information on rapid rehousing options are considered immediate needs and priority. Increased presence in noted areas of high numbers of tents, underpasses, and sidewalks where people have set up living spaces for themselves. For street outreach, focus on investments that improve housing-focused services and that are also effective. Engagement of non-sheltered individuals is not a simple task, as it makes opportunity for follow-up very difficult. So, offering services that set clients up for success without the demand of heavy follow-up, like providing bus tickets or BART tickets, setting up mobile assessments, and identifying other community partners or agencies to improve efforts and are knowledgeable about how to engage the traditionally underserved population will be helpful. Thank you. I'm going to hand this back over to Jeanette.
Okay, I'm going to start now with the HMIS immediate priorities. So HMIS should be used to track COVID-19 responses like client tracking and symptom screening. HMIS can be a powerful resource, and it can be used as a system of record to assist you in getting reimbursement from FEMA for COVID-19 expenses. Please have subrecipients work closely with your HMIS lead agency in your county and take the time to determine your HMIS needs, such as purchasing new licenses, equipment, and training of new providers. It's important to establish monitoring tools and data protocols to help you understand data quality. Additionally, monitoring your data will help you understand if you are meeting equity quality. For example, monitoring data indicators such as entries, exits, services provided, and durations can show if you're meeting equitable visions of housing and services. And it's important to establish protocols for frequent data assessments to tell you how well you're doing. For homeless prevention, one of the ways to improve coordination with the homeless response system is to invest in your coordinated entry system and also support at-risk diversion efforts. Now is the time to think of ways to collect data to improve prevention targeting and understand system disparities. Also provide training to subrecipients on the CARES Act eviction moratorium and encourage subrecipients to connect with their local legal services for people who are at risk of homelessness due to evictions. Additionally, we encourage you to use the funding to focus on the most vulnerable households who will be homeless without this assistance. The CARES Act eviction moratorium provides a temporary eviction moratorium for non-payment of rent or non-payment of other charges or fees between March 27 and July 24, 2020. The moratorium does not mean that people do not have to pay the rent, but HUD strongly encourages recipients to work with those they serve to avoid evictions for rent owed after the moratorium ends. The moratorium does not apply to evictions based on reasons other than non-payment of rent. Okay, we're back to the questions. I'm going to go over some that came in while we were speaking. One of the questions is, can we forego sending funding through the AE to avoid the lengthy time to get a contract from the COC? So again, the way the money is going to go out is if you were part of the 2020 Continuum of Care NOFA allocation process, an AE was already approved, and that's how we're going to administer the funds to that AE. If you are the 2020 Balance of State NOFA process, the money is going to go to the COC until they tell us that they're going to appoint an AE to administer the funds, and that'll be doing the application process. So I don't know, what NOFA you fall under for the 2020 ESG, but that's where the distinction is. Is this funding the first round or second? And is this current NOFA competitive? So this is the first round. And like I said in the beginning, there is going to be a second round. We don't know what that allocation is going to be. And this is not a competitive process. This is an allocation process. It's going again to the approved administrative entities or to the Balance of State COCs unless they appoint an AE.
And the amount that each, it's in the NOFA in Appendix A.
In Appendix A will give you the allocation.
It'll tell you your allocation.
So there's a question. Is the waiver memo that HUD released on 5/22 applicable for this ESG-CV funding? On May 22nd, let me see if I have my notes. No, I'm going to have to put that in the parking lot. We will, I don't have that memo in front of me to know if this applies. But I know that HUD released a memo for the waivers for just the regular ESG.
But that was long before May 22nd.
But there might have been a 5/22 and we just don't have a copy of it at the moment. So we will answer that on the FAQ. Can funds be used to pay for staff to do the data monitoring, evaluation, quality monitoring, et cetera, et cetera? So funds can be used for HMIS. If that's part of your HMIS, you can use salaries to pay for that. And we didn't have a restriction on HMIS, so that you could do that. Unlike the regular ESG, which is 10%. And then you also get the 5% for admin dollars, so you can use that money too for administrative. Can we hold our local selection process after submitting the application to the state on 7/20? Okay, so if you're the approved administrative entity and you want to hold your election process afterwards, that would work. For the balance of state, if the COC can do the same thing, it's just delaying getting this money out on the street. We really want to fast track this money. It doesn't have to be a competition. That was waived in the executive order, so you can just announce the funding and it doesn't have to be a competitive process. So if that helps. I'm reading through the questions to see which ones I haven't answered. Is there a timetable to spend the funds? Yes. So the agreement will expire on August 30, 2022, and all program funds should be expended by July 30th, 2022. So it's a real short time. Are there guidelines for how each COC distributes the funds among its members? No, you just need to follow your process. It would be up to you to run some sort of solicitation of interest or something to let people know there's money out there. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a competitive process, but you need to, it's your process. Okay. Okay, we're having some technical difficulties. Is that okay?
Yeah. Oh.
I tried that, it doesn't work.
Because it's escape. Yeah, the ES escape.
But the TV.
Okay, give us a few minutes. We're trying to.
Just when it shuts off,
They said that,
hold on.
they think that's okay to keep your TV turned on.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're good. Do we have any more questions, Jeanette? There we go. Now
Okay.
we're on track.
Sorry, we have some technical difficulties. We're going to have to move on to the next slides, and I apologize, but the questions will have to be answered on our FAQs.
You'll have another chance at the end of this also to ask some more
So
questions.
now I'd like to introduce Diana. She's going to present the next slides.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to be going over the application process for your application. I don't know if many of you know, but the department began accepting ESG-CV CARES Act applications through the new eCivis Grants Management System portal beginning this Monday, June 1st. COCs or designated AEs receiving funds will choose their providers. You will need to create a profile using the eCivis link listed on the slide. Applicants are encouraged to set up their profiles in the eCivis portal located at the link provided on the screen as early as possible. Profile setup instructions can be found in the eCivis Grants Management System external user manual on the ESG webpage. I'm going to go over the and also if you're having trouble logging into the portal or have questions on how to complete the online application, please contact eCivis or email the department. The contact information is provided on the slide. eCivis will be providing training on the new grants management system on Monday, June 8th at 10 a.m. and again on Tuesday, June 9th at 12 p.m. The link to register for either of these trainings is listed on the slide. Application and all other required documentation must be uploaded and received by the department no later than Monday, July 20th, 2020 by 5 p.m. Now let's begin reviewing each form that you will need to submit with your application. You will be given an opportunity to ask your questions after review the application. Using the eCivis online grant management system, load your information. This information includes the contact information. You will need to fill the name and address of the applicant. The authorized representative is the person named on the resolution, and the administrative fiscal representative is the contact person handling the request for funds. COC contact information. Fill in the name of COC, which includes the address, phone number, and email address. You will also need to fill in the HMIS lead information, which includes the title, address, phone number, and email address. Provider selection process. Grantees are responsible for awarding ESG-CV funds to eligible service providers for eligible activities in their approved COC service areas. Legislative and congressional information. This form is used to notify the state legislators and the U.S. representatives when ESG awards are made in their district. Please provide legislative and congressional information for each ESG activity location. Budget form. Please complete the table for each activity. Certification of indirect cost. Certification of indirect cost must be signed by the authorized representative. Paid data record, government 10, and applicant verification form. We will go into detail about that form in just a moment. Projected outcomes. This form is used for data collection to generate reports for the department and agency. The data is based on the projected outcomes for emergency shelter, street outreach, homelessness prevention, and rapid rehousing. The governing board authorizing resolution. We will also discuss this in more detail in just a moment. Applicant compliance certification. The authorized representative named in the resolution must sign this form certifying that the funding recommendation for ESG funds meets the federal and state ESG requirements. COC certification of A&E designation to administer funds. This form must be signed by the COC representative. This form certifies who the AE will be. Moving on to duplication of benefits. This is a new part of the application process. Once we receive further direction from HUD, we will provide it to you. For now, the duplication of benefits occurs when assistance is needed from multiple sources and total assistance. Applicants must indicate their need for the type of assistance they are requesting. Applicants will be required to certify that once information regarding this form is received from HUD, the duplication of benefits form will be provided to the department. Additionally, applicants are required to continue to report on duplication of benefits throughout the expenditure period for the ESG-CV funds. The duplicate of benefit sources can be defined by the sections listed on the screen. Now let's get back to the pay data record, Government 10, and applicant verification form. The pay data record, Government 10 form is required to be filled out for each administrative entity receiving payment. If you are a unit of local government, please complete the 10 form. If you are a nonprofit, please fill out the pay data record. The applicant verification form is new this year. We designed this form in order to create consistency for the name the AE is using on their documents. The entity name should be the same on the application, resolution, and 10. Link to these forms will be provided within the online e-Civis grant application. A few tips on preparing the pay data record. The principal government agency name on the 10 should match the applicant name on the resolution. The business name on the STD 204 pay data record should match the applicant name on the resolution. It is important that these names match the resolution in order to process your application in a timely manner. Moving on to the resolution template. A complete ESG-CV authorizing resolution approved by the applicant's governing board will be required. Please follow the ESG-CV template located on our HCD website. The link is also provided on this slide. Name and or title of authorized representatives must be provided in the resolution. The authorized representative identified in the resolution must sign the standard agreement and other program documents. An error in the resolution will delay execution of the standard agreement and ability to draw down funds. If you use the word and for multiple authorized representatives, all parties must sign. Do not use and or when identifying the authorized representatives. If a designee is indicated in the resolution, then a letter of designation should be submitted. Vote totals will be compared to the current organization bylaws and other governing documents. Be sure the ayes, noes, absentation, and absent boxes have numbers in them. Please do not leave them blank. The person attesting the resolution cannot be the person identified as the authorized representative. At the bottom of the resolution, the attesting officer must sign and print their name. Is there any questions on this part of the application process?
I'm glad Jeanette's reading that. One thing that just came to my mind that I want to point out is regarding the e-Civics, the training for that, they can also find that on a link on the HCD website.
Yes.
I know we said that the link is on our screen, but
It's also provided.
yeah, it's also provided on our website. If you go there, you'll be able to find that and pick the day that you want to do the training and go from there. Very user friendly.
Okay, I'm looking through the box. Someone asked, is the ESG staff leading the e-Civis training webinar next week? And no, we're not. We have the contractors are doing that.
e-Civis
E-Civis.
is doing that.
Someone asked, could you please send a PDF of the e-Civis application so we can see the questions easily and prepare answers to upload? You have to go in and create your profile account, and then you'll be able to see the questions as they are asked. And then if you want to see what forms need to be signed, go into the solicitation of interest link and go to the files tab, and you can see all the attached documents that need to be uploaded. Okay, I haven't gotten any new ones and I'm not able to go back up. So if I haven't addressed your question, we will go through this after the webinar and post. And if you would like to, you can send your questions to the ESG inbox and we'll also answer them there. So the next person I'd like to introduce is Jamie Dick. She's going to finish up off the presentation.
Great. We are now going to discuss eligible costs. Eligible costs that were incurred prior to the enactment of the CARES Act, the award letter, and the standard agreement related to the prevention, preparation for, and response to the coronavirus may be reimbursed after the execution of the standard agreement. The chart shown on this slide lists eligible costs under shelter operations related to maintaining a sanitary shelter environment for staff and clients. Some of the eligible costs include cleaning supplies, cots, linens, washers and dryers, hand sanitizer, masks, gloves, and bus or train tokens for clients to travel to and from medical appointments. Hiring additional staff to support coronavirus preparedness is also an eligible cost. All costs are subject to the Office of Management and Budget Cost Principles and also generally accepted accounting principles. Please refer to 2 CFR Part 200 for further details. Costs must be allowable, allocable, and reasonable. Lastly, shifting costs between awards to overcome funding deficiencies is not allowed. All reimbursed costs are subject to monitoring upon request. In the next couple slides, ESG-CV resources from HUD are listed for your review. We have found all of these useful in preparing for the ESG-CV NOFA and application. We encourage all of our subrecipients to continue to learn about the most updated information released from HUD regarding the coronavirus response. For more information regarding HCD's ESG-CV program, please refer to the ESG-CV NOFA released June 1st. If you have any further questions or concerns, please reach out to the ESG staff via email at esg@hcd.ca.gov. Lastly, please stay in the know by signing up for HCD's email on the HCD website. At this time, we will continue to take questions through the chat feature. Jeanette, we have any new ones?
Okay, so I want to apologize. You're asking, can we discuss more detail of the duplication of benefits? And unfortunately, we reached out to HUD and they're still working on guidance to give us. So we were asking HUD to supply us with a spreadsheet and more detail on what's expected of us. So we can't at this time give you any more detail. All we have is what we've told you.
I believe, though, at this time, it's going to be pretty simple when it comes to the application process, where they have to check a box and they literally just have to certify that at a later date, once we know more, then we'll attack the duplication of benefits. But when it comes to the application process, it's going to be pretty simple.
Another question is, our county is directly contracting with a hotel to pay for non-congregate shelter leasing costs only. Is this an eligible use? Are we allowed to add ESG-CV funds to this existing contract, or would we need to execute a new and separate contract? I would have you send that to our ESG inbox, and we will have our management team look at that question and give you an answer. Again, they're asking if the funds can be reimbursed between March and current, and at this time I don't have an answer. So I will propose that to the management team and see how that language is going to be written, if you can go ahead and charge back to March. Will the AEs be able to submit an application without having selected agencies who will be awarded these funds? Yes, you can submit an application. Because again, we're just entering into agreement with the AEs, and the AEs are entering into the agreements with the providers they select.
AE is the provider. There's no recommendation package needed.
There was a question here, are there other than these slides, where can we find eligible cost charts that were just shown? Those were found on the HUD webpage on COVID-19?
I believe so.
So send that question to our ESG inbox and we'll get the link to where we found those actual expenses. Our COC lead agency transitioned July 1st, 2019. Who do I speak to confirm who our designated AE is? Shoot this to our ESG inbox and tell us who you are so that we can research that for you. Will we need to document rapid rehousing connection to COVID? Yes. Are we allowed to use funds to house homeless persons even if they are not at risk? Meaning we have had one COVID case in our county. No, this money is for at-risk of being homeless and are at risk because they're high risk for COVID.
So these funds are allocated under the CARES Act that speaks specifically to the COVID experience. So if your clients aren't experiencing COVID-related symptoms or housing directly impacted by the COVID, you may not spend funds down for those clientele.
But you can use regular ESG.
Yeah, they can apply for we have the other ESG funds coming out.
And again, this is the second time this question's asked, so I just want to repeat. It says, what is the time period for the funding? So again, the funding, you go ahead and apply right now, and we'll enter into a contract. We're trying to streamline the process through the e-Civis, and as soon as we can execute the contract, your agreement will expire on August 30th, 2022, and all the funds need to be expended by July 30th, 2022. And we are going to post this PowerPoint presentation on our website.
Yeah.
And again, please, if you have questions, send it to the ESG inbox and our team will look at it and get a response back to you. I'll give you a couple more minutes and then we're going to end this session.
So we have a question that says, are we allowed to address COVID-19 indoor air quality issues in shelters? Are you asking that you have work done internally in your shelter to have better air conditioning or flow through of free air into your space? Not sure what the meat of the question is lying, but any renovations regarding safety and protocol for COVID is absolutely an approved cost with this fund. So if you are making adjustments to your shelter space or trying to figure out how to have safe distancing or making and practicing good safety measures to stop the active spread of COVID in your facility, this is absolutely an approved cost. You would need to make it understandably clear how your shelter update or procedures is going to directly affect that situation.
Okay, we have a question here. How soon after the awards are announced can the AE expect a standard agreement? So again, this is a rolling application. So as soon as you have your resolution and all those forms filled out and uploaded to the e-civis, we will get an alert and we will process it and we will start the standard agreement process. And that can take about 4 to 6 weeks as soon as we get an approved resolution. That's the most important part. That's what's going to hold up your application. If it's not, if you don't follow the template, if you change wording, our legal office will kick it back.
And you can find that template, I believe, within the e-civis application, and I want to say also
And it's on our website.
HCV website is also posted.
So you have a question, if we are giving rental assistance because of job loss due to COVID, can we use ESG-CV funding? I'd like for you guys to think about this funding as far as being documentation heavy. So since we're trying to fund a situation due to the pandemic, we need to be able to link those funds back to situations that come from that. So that sounds more like retention services than meeting the need in real time. So I think that for the situation specifically, you would want to do more diversion and R&R, resources and referrals, for someone who supports with back rent, programs like Seasons of Sharing perhaps, or HEAP offer assistance with back rent. But job loss due to COVID, where you're going to spend all your money on that, people are going to have a hard time with their employment at this time. They're going to be able, they will probably say that that's the situation for them. And trying to prove that or having that something that you can have hardcore in your file paperwork wise is going to be tricky for you. I would say use your own discretion and make your cases individually and idiosyncratically, but be wise about them. If you don't need to spend for that, definitely refer out if you can. We have another question. Only individuals who fall into the high-risk COVID-19 category, prioritizes groups, are eligible for these funds. Example, 65 and older, underlying health condition, COVID positive, COVID exposed. So this is a two-pronged question. This fund, again, is through the CARES Act, which is supporting the COVID-19 experience specifically. But if you are having people, if you're having people who are falling under eligibility of 65 and older, underlying health conditions, that's not necessarily COVID related. That is just a subgroup of the population that you serve anyway. So that will be used regular ESG funds for that. But if you have people who are COVID positive, and they are also over 65 and have underlying health conditions, they're absolutely candidates for this level of support. COVID exposed, I don't know that you can really identify that on paper. I think that everyone at some point is COVID exposed. So you can't use that as a place to rest and saying, well, I want to spend funds for this client because they've been near someone who had COVID-19. How are you documenting that? How are you following up with that? What are you doing for that besides offering them non-congregate shelter, giving them personal protective equipment? You can't fund the world in a way trying to keep COVID from being around you. If you are experiencing symptoms, if you are sick with this disease, then absolutely you are eligible for the funds. But exposing or things like that are not quite enough to spend these funds down on.
Thank you, Deanna. Will there be any reporting requirements? Again, the duplication of benefits will be a reporting requirement, and you'll have your usual reporting, the annual APRs, and then this is a reimbursement, so you'll be submitting your request for funds.
And also, I would imagine that the AEs will monitor the balance of state and ask appropriate questions about how the fundings are spent down, and having their own questions regarding the funding that they've received or they've nominated for agencies to receive, and how they expect to have that money spent down. So if obviously you'll have the APR, the annual, but if you want to do something quarterly, that will help you kind of stay abreast and on track of what's happening with your agencies and how the money is being dispersed out, is absolutely welcomed and probably even recommended.
What happens if we're unable to expend all the funds? Well, we're hoping that you can. We don't want to return this money. So really think outside the box and really try to spend it. If you're thinking you can't spend it all, please give us a call so we can talk about maybe helping you figure out other options to help you spend money.
Having MOUs in place is an option to think about. Really thinking about roping in other, as we said in some of the slides, if you guys are having a hard time figuring out how to spend these funds down, or you can't reach who you're needing to reach, thinking about other agencies you can rope in to support you to see what they can do in way of offering services and seeing if you can kind of toggle between each other and see what makes sense. But I would recommend that you reach back to ESG staff to find out more specifically about your agency. But with this funding, we want people to get really savvy with their thoughts about what can be done. How can we aid this experience? How can we be impactful and spending money in a way that makes sense? So based on what you're asking for, your allocation, just really kind of getting super savvy with your thoughts about what you can do. Bounce off of us, we will give you what we can, we'll give you our thoughts and ideas, but think really hard about it, guys. We don't want to turn this money back over.
It's a one-time deal. So we've reached the end, and I know there are questions we did not answer. I know people have questions about the procurement and the solicitation of interest. Could you please send those to our inbox so that we can discuss with the management team and better clarify what needs to happen? I appreciate everybody's time, and Jamie's going to finish up.
I was just going to say thank you for joining the webinar. And on the ESG-CV program, we look forward to continuing working with you during these hard times as we help people in California, and we hope you all stay healthy and safe.
Thank you.